Got my eyes straight ahead, got my head in the game. With the red light on, I'm just waiting for the change. Keep my head down low.
Hi, Jay Fallon. Thanks for listening to The Slippery Slope. Uh, so listen, I'm going to start off today telling you a bit of a story, something that happened to me in the past when I was in the police, Queensland Police Service. So I used to work far north region. I won't go into detail about the towns and whatever, but yeah, anyway. So I worked in a town up north, and it had a indigenous community attached to it. And this particular indigenous community, so the whole tribe basically extended. It was quite a large area. So a couple of times, I also did some relieving work in in an indigenous community further north. Uh, just indigenous community. That's all it was. It was a couple of hundred people. Beautiful, beautiful little place. Uh, Lots of crocodiles, lots of crocodiles, and like flipping massive crocodiles, like just huge. I thought I'd seen some big crocs, and then you get up there and you're like, wow, okay, these things are massive, man. Anyway, so lots of crocodiles. The indigenous community, this little township, was a dry town, so you weren't allowed to have alcohol in the town. Uh, and the police that were there, it was only a two man station. So basically you were on call all the time. So I went up there a couple of times to relieve. And it was good because you got to do other different kinds of work, a lot of traveling. Obviously, it's very, very remote, very hard to get to. Not even a lot of tourists went through there. At that time, it was a bit more uh, secluded because the roads weren't as open as what they are now. Uh, Great place to be, great place to work. Being a dry community, there's a lot of issues there. There was a lot of issues, but being a dry community, it was fairly peaceful. Anyway, I recall one night, you could hear there was a lot of noise in town. I just remember waking up. I had to sleep because I was just relieving, so I had to actually sleep inside the station. I didn't have my own separate, but it was like another bedroom as a part of it. So I slept in there, and you could hear uh, the main street. There was a lot of noise, a lot of things going on. We didn't receive any phone calls or anything like that. No calls of service, so it didn't take much notice of it. But you realize that obviously something was going down. There was a lot of noise, and I kind of assumed, okay, someone's someone's bought some alcohol in. Something like that has happened. Um, we uh, so you realize someone's bought alcohol in. Something's going down. Anyway, uh, the next morning, probably about or I want to say around between 5 and 6, we started having some technical issues with the station. So the alarm starts going off, which was very unusual. Just the general station alarm starts going off. We turned it off. Uh, we turned the sound off. A few minutes later, 10 minutes later, it went off again. Turned it off. A couple of minutes later, and then it kept getting the time frames kept getting shorter and shorter. Next minute, the alarm goes off, and then it's just a constant. It'll go off. You turn it off, and then it'll just a minute later come back on. 30 seconds later, and then I think after that it just stayed on as a constant. We get a call from someone in Cairns saying that hey, because they've been monitoring, obviously they monitor all the remote stations, saying that, yeah, there's an issue with the station security, with the electricity, and our station, our security system's kind of going offline, some kind of issue with it. And so this alarm is just, it's failing. I believe we couldn't lock up the station. There was something there. And they said, so you're not going to be able to leave the station. You're not going to be able to go out because you can't secure the station. and until we can get someone out there, electrician, someone out to come out and do some work. Obviously, we're in such a remote area that this person, whoever's going to come out and look after the station, fix it, was going to have to travel from, I can't remember where they came from, maybe Cooktown, something like that. I can't remember where they came from, but yeah, someone else had to come and fix it, fix this alarm system, and you guys can't leave. And sure enough, same time that this alarm's going off, our phones start ringing. So answer the phones. What's happened? Obviously, and we knew it. We knew that obviously there's been alcohol brought into town. Now, obviously, like I said, a two policeman town. So it wasn't. It's not advisable. If you've got a couple of hundred people that have decided that this night they want to party, and drink alcohol, it's probably not the most advisable thing to go up there in the dark and just say, well, let's start taking alcohol. You can't do anything, you can't really do anything by force. You have to have the help of the community. And if the community's decided to party for the night, well, kind of have to maybe go with it sometimes. Anyway, everything seemed to be cool. About 5 o'clock in the morning, same time the alarm starts going off, people start ringing. Something's going down. So anyway, answer the phone. I remember they want police there. Well, there was messages coming through as well as people ringing, need called. Everyone's fighting. There's all these fights going on. So eventually, we've worked out. Well, no, I won't say eventually. So Cairn Station said, "Hey, can't leave the station because this is going down. You can't secure the station." We're getting all these calls for service. Apparently, the whole town is basically fighting, apparently. And what are we going to do? So I said to the other officer, look, I'll go up and have a look. I know a lot of the people up there anyway, because the other town that I worked in, because it was the same group of people, the same tribe, basically lived in that whole area, and I was just in another. Anyway, so the same tribe. So a lot of these people knew me, knew who I was. So I've jumped in the truck, driven, just up a block away to the main street. Left the other officer at the station to keep it secured. Get up the main street, and it was like the whole township is out on the street. There's people on the street who look like obviously they'd been fighting. Obviously, they'd been fighting. There's a couple of bloodied faces, bodies getting around. Everyone's taking their shirt off. all the usual stuff. All the usual suspects were out there, sweaty bodies. People screaming at me, "You got to come and do something. You got to come and do something." Everyone's telling me who I've got to arrest, what I've got to do. And when you've got maybe a couple of hundred people standing around, and you've got another 50 people screaming at you, telling you what to do, things start to feel a little uncomfortable. Anyway, so I'm sitting in the truck, not really wanting to get out because there's just so many people. A lot of people are intoxicated. There's been a lot of violence going on. Everything seemed to have been going all right until probably, about the 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning mark, I suppose. Anyway, so I get out, talk to some people, decide, okay, I'm going to have to, this person's going to have to be under arrest. Talk to that person. Things being what they are in some of these communities, you cannot just decide. Well, you can't just say people will go along. People will be far more willing to go along if they see that there's justice for both sides. So people are fighting. There's always there's always two sides to every story, and you couldn't just go in and just say, well, this person here is getting arrested, because you knew very well it takes two people to fight. And if there's been two groups, two people, you knew you're going to have to, just a fact, you have to arrest or give out NTAs, which is a notice to appear in court, you have to either, completely arrest two people or give out NTAs to two people, to two opposite sides, just to keep things even, just a sense of justice. So anyway, there was no giving out NTAs because there's too much blood getting around. So I've decided, okay, I've talked to one lad, this one Murray lad, and I'm like, okay, I'm going up. Yep, you're going to have to be arrested. Jason, what are you doing? You know, everyone's telling me, well, you got to do this. You got to go up and talk to this other fella. I end up getting out, had a chat to him. He's got his posse around me. He's quite big. His name happened to be Jason too. It was not impressed with me. Basically, we had a bit of a showdown. When I say showdown, just a bit of a standoff, I suppose, not showdown. A bit of a standoff. I'm standing there by myself. He's surrounded by his little posse of boys. I told him he's under arrest. He didn't like that. Made things very clear. This is what's going to happen. He had to get in the car. So after a bit of talking and a bit of a discussion, a bit of bluffing on my behalf, because I'm by myself, I got him to get into the car. No violence, not too much of a fuss, bit of bluffing. Let's get into the car. Okay. Put him in the back, take him down to the station. We could still lock the cells. Come down there, come back, arrest the other fella who I'd first spoken to. Everything's happy. The town starts to quieten down because they see the police are there, see police are still happening. Obviously, we didn't tell them that, didn't give them too much information about how the station was, in a state of disrepair at the moment. And anyway, but what I noticed, okay, this township, very, very peaceful little town, beautiful little spot. Everything's fine when you've got no alcohol in place, when everyone goes along with it and decides, yep, okay, we can all agree on this. Of course, you get a couple of people, a couple of ring-ins that decide they're going to come and visit their mates. And what do? They bring a heap of alcohol with them. And so everyone's like, oh, we're going to have a party. So other people go out and they've traveled and they've come back. And then everyone's just brought alcohol in with them. As soon as alcohol's brought in, it's all good, like I said, until about, because these fellas could drink, man. Like, there is no way I could drink alcohol like some of these guys. It was just, if you've drunk alcohol all night, just, what it's like. Things go wrong eventually. No matter how much of a straight-laced person you are, things will eventually go wrong if you just drunk alcohol for like 10 hours straight. So, and you mix that with a couple of hundred people, things are definitely going to go wrong. So everyone started fighting. Everything was going all right. There's no problems until alcohol is brought into the mix. So look, I'm telling you all this because we've had obviously these issues here in Australia, in the Northern Territory, in Alice Springs. I'm saying, so if you don't know, Alice Springs is where they have, it's nearby where they have Uluru, what was called Ayers Rock. So Northern Territory is where the capital of the Northern Territory is Darwin. I'm just saying all this in case people don't know, any overseas listeners. But I'll read through this article here and it'll explain a bit more. But that was my experience. Everything is nice. Everything's fine. Then you bring in alcohol. It all goes pear-shaped really quickly. In that instance, about 12 hours later, everything's gone pear-shaped. So this headline here, incredibly noticeable. Alcohol bans have cut family violence and crime in Alice Springs, advocates say. This is from The Guardian, I think, yeah. So alcohol restrictions in the Northern Territory are having a positive... Sorry, I'm going to try and share this thing so you can actually see what I'm doing. They're saying, yes, having a positive impact advocates say as police statistics show a drop in family violence, call-outs, property offences, and other antisocial behaviour. So earlier this year, Northern Territory government faced pressure over rising crime and antisocial behaviour in Alice Springs after intervention-era bans on alcohol in remote Aboriginal communities came to an end, making liquor legal in some communities for the first time in 15 years. So the reason why I was telling you these police stories is because I saw the same thing. When you had, obviously, in the other town I worked in, you had alcohol bans. When there's no alcohol in town, it was just a serene, beautiful little place. You know, the scenery was absolutely stunning. Waterfall, just yeah, the beaches. If it wasn't for the huge man-eating crocodiles, you'd be like, yeah, I'm gonna come live here. except for the 500-kilo crocodile that was, yeah. Anyway, you'd think just absolutely beautiful. No alcohol, everyone just like fabulous people. Add alcohol in, and that's what they're saying here. So they brought in this alcohol. They've had the end of these bans in alcohol, and what do you know? We've got problems again. Had all these problems in Alice Springs. So alcohol bans were reintroduced in Central Australia in January, with further restrictions imposed in Feb. Aboriginal people living in remote communities and town camps in the NT, stands for Northern Territory, are not able to buy takeaway alcohol, although communities will be able to lift the bans if 60% of residents vote in favour of an alcohol management plan. And that was the same thing of this other little town that I went relieving in a couple of times. They could have lifted the ban on alcohol, but they had to have a majority of the township that voted for the lifting of the bans. And to their much to for their benefit, most of the town was behind having this ban on alcohol. They realized that there was a problem. They didn't want their young people getting caught up in it, so they continued to support these alcohol bans, the actual community themselves. It was a good thing. And it always frustrated me when you'd have all these other people, all these other, what do you call these? Like I said before, these recent identifiers, we would be down in the city calling for, this is racist. We shouldn't have these bans, these alcohol bans. And you sit there going, yeah, the people in the community, the actual Murrays who actually live in the community, real Murrays, they wanted the alcohol bans. So you get all these city fellas, trying to make the decisions, and they've got no idea, to be honest. Anyway, so Northern Territory police statistics collated by the Central Australian Aboriginal Congress revealed 37% decrease in DV assaults from Jan to April. All other assaults dropped 35%, while property offences were down 25% over the same period. Amazing. This is what alcohol does. It's not just Indigenous communities. Let's be realistic. Mate, I couldn't tell you how many fights and that you'd go to and you'd have to break up. And alcohol and other drug related issues were abounding. It causes so much more problems than it helps. So the People's Alcohol Action Coalition, a community-based group aimed at raising awareness over alcohol-related harms and headed by the Alice Springs-based Dr. John Boffa, yeah, said the renewed restrictions were having a positive impact. Going to go further down, skip through a bit of this. He said the impact on domestic and family violence call-outs was particularly stark. Everyone deserves to be able to live safely. Obviously, DV is a major issue in all around Australia, but especially in the Northern Territory and Alice Springs. Listen, I hate it when they say, "Oh, it's especially in this town." DV is a big problem all over Australia, not just especially those places. It's incredibly noticeable. The change is in front of everyone's faces. The town is a different place again, seeing a big improvement because alcohol restrictions. But we can't be complacent. like I said, the reason why I'm telling you all this, or sharing those stories with you, alcohol, there's nothing wrong if the community agrees to it and the community has the right to be able to overturn it, and you've got a majority of the community, a majority that don't, that want alcohol bans enforced, and they want that for the community, especially the older ones in the community. All right, some of these communities, I reckon, if you're like if you're probably 25 and under, forget about it. I don't need to hear your voice, because they're half the time they were the ones that wanted to be bringing alcohol in. But if all the elders are in agreement and don't want alcohol, and they want to see alcohol bans enforced, I say go with it, go for it, support it. Alcohol brings so many issues in our, like I said, not just indigenous communities, so many issues. And look, I'm not anti-alcohol or anything. I love a glass of red wine and that, but if you don't know, if you know you have a problem and you don't know when to stop, you don't know how to control your drinking, we've got to be able to look at these things and understand that different communities operate in different ways, and maybe an alcohol ban is the best thing for these communities. And these people who live in the city and want to talk about communities as if they know and as if they've been there, when they've never spent any actual time in a community, don't know. You see them, all these people that want to stand up in front of the camera, tell you that they're indigenous, and they use the phrases, "Oh, our mob," and we're yarning, and so everyone thinks, "Oh, they must be Aboriginal." They use "mob" in a sentence. Well, no, who else does that? Only a black fella, right? They wouldn't have a clue. Alcohol bans, I think, especially in these places, when the community agrees with it, when the elders in the community agree with it, I think it's excellent. I think it's good. I think it needs to happen. Tell me what you think. Not anti-alcohol at all. Not anti-alcohol at all, but I think it's a good thing. Let me know what you think. Obviously, I think it's not just alcohol. There's bigger issues here. To me, there's spiritual issues as well. But I'm definitely not anti-alcohol bans in these communities. I think it is a good thing. But please let me know what you think. I'm Jay Fallon. Thanks for listening to The Slippery Slope.
They just fuel a desire that will take me higher. I'm on fire because nothing's gonna bring me down. Nothing's gonna bring me down. Nothing's gonna stop me now. No more deals to be done. And nothing's gonna just focus on me goal. Nothing's gonna stop me now. Nothing's gonna hold me down. Got my eye on the prize. Got my eye